What's going on, guys? We are back with part 2. This is going to be a really hands-on video calculating your macros. You probably heard of macros and planning a day of eating.
Yep.
So this is the most practical information for starting keto. So the first thing is macros. What are they? Really briefly, they're macronutrients, fats, proteins, carbs. Those are what calories are comprised of. So you'll have a calorie total per day, and then a macro breakdown as a percentage is usually how it's told.
And just quickly, the grams of each macronutrient will add up to your calories. That is a very common question. Should I be hitting my calories or should I hit the grams of carbs, proteins, fats?
Yeah.
They equal one another.
Yes. So we will show you that. We'll go through, we'll do Mega's macros, or should we do mine?
Whatever.
So we'll show you, we'll do Mega's macros. It's easy to calculate by hand, but we also have different macro calculators and stuff on our sites.
Yep.
Right here is our macro calculator on ketoconnect.net. This is a pretty easy one to use. And then here we also have a meal planner that has a macro calculator included in it. This is at jointhecurve.com. So this is another site that you can use. This one's really cool. So this has a macro calculator as well in here. But we can just do it by hand and kind of show you what things mean. If you're doing a macro calculator, you have to understand that it's just sort of giving you a guess.
Yeah.
Based on your size. What it can't factor in is, for example, the big thing is your history of dieting. So if you, for the past 10 or 20 years, have been doing different extreme diets, the chances are your actual metabolism is going to be lower than what the calculator tells you.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So you can look up, there's the Biggest Loser study where they take the same size person before and after going through this whole rigmarole of Biggest Loser, losing weight, and then regaining. So we're at the same weight before and then 5 years after, but they've lost a ton of weight, really extreme dieting style, and then they've gained weight back. And they're at the same weight, and their metabolism at the end is 25% lower than it was at the beginning. So that's just to exemplify what could be the case. So this is just a guess. So to find your macros, we can use a macro calculator here, and we can enter Mega's weight.
130.
And body fat percentage, we'll put 28.
Probably 30, closer to 30. Let's put 30. Let's be honest here.
Okay, we could put 30. And this is something that you can just estimate. And if you can't estimate this, you can look up pictures on the internet. Yeah, so you can just look at something like this. There's tons of them. Just pictures on the internet.
It really throws you off, though, because muscle plays into it differently. But, they give you 3 different types of options. I see.
So you can just, and it doesn't matter that much is the thing. So what this is going to do is give you your lean body mass. This is what your protein intake is calculated off of. So what this number is it's just Mega's body weight without her fat weight. So it's her lean mass. So 130 her total weight times 0.7 because she's 30% fat. So she's 70% lean mass. So 91. And then from there, it calculates her BMR. This is basal metabolic rate. So that is without any activity. That's just her baseline.
Just laying there.
Sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
Thermic effect of food. The amount of calories burned by digesting food. So the more calories you eat, obviously, the more of this you get.
But don't use that as an excuse to eat more food.
Yeah. So this is then her baseline with the thermic effect of food added in for calories, 1388. And remember, she's pretty small. She's 5'4". And then the activity level multiplier. So this is the actual multiplication it will do to your calorie. For Mega, she's probably in here. So this is her output, just under 1,600 calories. Is that about right?
I'm nursing right now, but yeah, that's right.
Okay, and then here you can put your goal, gain weight, lose weight, maintain. Depending on which one you select, gain mass, this will add to your calories. Lose weight, this will subtract from your calories. And what is a good deficit to start with?
I would say 10.
What is the attractive thing to do to most people is to come in here and just put I could probably get away with 30% to start with. That's not good to do. That's what they do on The Biggest Loser. You want to start as slow as possible. 5-10% deficit would be good. Obviously, it depends on your size. If you're bigger and you have a lot of wiggle room, you can do 20-25%. Let's say you have a few hundred pounds to lose. But if you're pretty lean, like me, I would never do more than 20% deficit to start. I would probably start at 5%. So this is just going to reduce your calorie intake. And you don't want to go too low either. For Mega, she should never probably go below 1250, something like that.
That's even still, I would say, under eating. Because then where do you go from there, right? If you start your deficit at 1,200 calories and you're not losing weight anymore, the natural thing to do is, right, to be at more of a deficit. And then that's just damaging at the end of the day, I think, over a long period of time, which is potentially what you would have done with this 20 years of dieting, right? That's what we were talking about at the beginning.
Yeah. You have to think of this as a runway. So anything you're doing here is borrowing from future weight loss. So the longer you can lose consistent weight at a lower percentage, the more runway you have to continue dropping calories over time, ideally over a very long period of time. And if you're thinking right now, like, this is super complicated, I don't want to do all this stuff, the next video is going to be some alternative options you have. Let's say you want to be in a 10% calorie deficit. So for Mega, that's 1420. It's already kind of low calories.
It's pretty low.
And then the default protein ratio, I think a good starting point is 0.8 grams per pound of lean body mass. What this is going to give Mega is 73, you can see right here, grams of protein. And how we get that, if you're doing this on your own, you don't want to use the macro calculator, you kind of want to understand these calculations. It takes this number, her lean body mass, 91, and for every 1 pound, you eat 0.8 grams of protein. So 91 times 0.8. 72.8, so 73 grams. And for most people starting, 20 grams of net carbs is a good starting point. So that is just defaulted into 20 grams, and then the remainder is from fat.
Awesome. So what does a day of eating look like with these macros?
So yeah, now we can build Mega a meal plan for these macros. We do have all these meal plans pre-created for members of The Curve. That's jointhecurve.com. So there's like a minimal cooking meal plan. Okay, so we got Mega's macros. Now we are going to build a meal plan for her based on these macros. And this, I think, is a really good practice to get into, especially if you've never done this before. You don't know what the macros of different foods you eat routinely are. This is just like easy to learn. So you can build your meal plan for the next day, the previous day, to make sure everything's kind of aligning and coming out to where you want it to. So typical breakfast, what are we having? And here we're using Chronometer. This is a macro tracking app, but there's different ones you can use too. MyFitnessPal and a bunch of other ones.
So a typical breakfast for me would be a bulletproof coffee. So usually I like coconut oil a lot. So a tablespoon of coconut oil and a scoop of MCT powder. And then maybe like a little bit of a nut milk creamer, but that's negligible. I don't even track that.
Okay.
And lunch will be, I guess, like, I do a lot of salmon. We could do that. I do a lot of prepackaged stuff. So it's Norwegian salmon. So it would be a pre-cooked salmon like that. And then maybe like some Brazil nuts.
An ounce?
Sure.
An ounce is only like 4 or 5.
I know, it's not a lot. Then some like hard-boiled eggs. 2 hard-boiled eggs. I like to get them prepackaged. And that is my lunch.
Okay.
I like to base my lunch around how much protein I usually have if I'm tracking. I like to save the majority of my protein for dinner or if I want like a little snack during the day because it's so filling for me.
And you can also set your targets in here. I guess I'll change these to megas.
So you can see that I have 32 grams of protein left. With me personally, fat is something I usually don't like to go over too much because that's a lot of added calories. But protein, I'm comfortable going 10 grams like above, especially because our dinners tend to be protein heavy. So we'll do ground beef, keep it pretty simple. So we do egg roll in a bowl often, so we can build a quick egg roll in a bowl.
Okay.
So I'll do like 6 ounces of ground beef and then cabbage. And then like the coconut aminos, those have like a little bit of carbs here and there.
Carrots.
So that is egg roll in a bowl. That's my dinner. So you can see that I have a lot of fat left if I'm still hungry at this point. So I would do maybe like 100% dark chocolate, which is just carbs and fat mainly.
You could also just add more fat to your dinner. This is the benefit of making it in advance. You can just be like, oh, now I need like an extra tablespoon of coconut oil with dinner.
But if you want to have a little fun and you want to eat something after the fact, or I often like to make like a decaf tea and you can add some cream to it and some sweetener. And so that's like a nice little nightcap.
Yeah, and then once you get your day kind of set up, you can adjust different things and like play around with the macros to get it to come out to something you're comfortable with.
So here I've eaten over my protein a little bit and under eaten on my carbs a little bit and my fat as well. And so this is a solid day for me.
Yeah, this is pretty good, pretty close. I would say, yeah, this works.
This works for me. And if you feel like you're starting off and you want to be really strict, that is totally doable too. I used to be like that. And meal prepping, tracking the night before so you know what you're going to eat that day works really well. But someone like me, I'm like 4 or 5 years into keto. This is where I'm comfortable.
And we do have a lot of day of eating videos on our YouTube channel you can check out. And if you don't want to go through all this, just stay tuned for the next video. We'll come up with alternatives, because to do a natural human diet, you shouldn't really need all of this. But the big thing is we're coming off of a very unnatural diet. So sometimes this can be necessary and helpful. But that's the second video in the series. Stick around for the next one.
Bye.